It was one of those flawless Sunday mornings that make you glad to be alive, crisp air, a soft breeze, and the kind of quiet that only early risers know. I was out for my usual stroll with my golden retriever, Buddy, in the grassy heart of our neighborhood's Willow Creek Park. Buddy, bless his soul, was his typical well-mannered self, trotting happily beside me, his bright red leash swinging in my hand. That leash wasn't some flimsy string either. It was thick, nylon, practically screaming responsible pet owner in the morning sunlight. We'd stop now and then for Buddy to sniff a patch of grass, but he always caught up, tail wagging like he owned the world. The park was mostly ours that morning, save for a jogger or two and another dog walker in the distance. Pure bliss, or so I thought. I decided to take a breather on a bench under a sprawling oak tree. Buddy plopped down at my feet, panting contentedly while I sipped from my water bottle. That's when I spotted her Lisa Harper, our neighborhood's self-proclaimed queen of rules, storming into the park like she was on a mission from God. Even from 50 yards away, I could see her eyes darting around, hunting for something to pounce on. Lisa wasn't just any HOA member. She was the kind who'd fine you for a blade of grass out of place. And that morning, her radar locked onto Buddy and me. Her face twisted into this smug grin, like she'd just caught a criminal red-handed. My stomach sank. Trouble was coming, and it was wearing designer sneakers. Lisa didn't walk. She saw across the park, her face already flushing a furious shade of red. She was fumbling with her phone, probably itching to document some imaginary crime. Before she even got close, she started yelling, her voice sharp enough to wake the dead. "Is that dog leashed? Is your dog on a leash?" she bellowed, pointing at Buddy like he was a feral wolf. I blinked, dumbfounded, and glanced down at the bright red leash in my hand, clipped securely to Buddy's collar. It was so obvious I almost laughed. "Good morning, Lisa," I said, keeping my voice steady, lifting the leash just enough to make it impossible to miss. "As you can see, Buddy's leashed, same as always." She stopped about 6 feet away, completely ignoring me. "I've had multiple complaints about unleashed dogs in this park," she snapped, her tone dripping with venom. "Complaints?" Buddy and I were the only ones in this corner of the park. The HOA rules are crystal clear. Dogs must be leashed at all times in community spaces. I took a slow breath, already feeling my patience fray. "I know the rules, Lisa," I said, jiggling the leash for emphasis. "And as you can see, Buddy's on his leash. This bright red one right here." Lisa wasn't ha-vying it. She narrowed her eyes, raised her phone, and started snapping photos like a paparazzo. "That doesn't look like proper control to me," she said, her voice rising. "The leash is too long. You're in violation of Section 8.3 of the Community Guidelines." By now, a small crowd was forming, joggers slowing down, another dog walker creeping closer, all drawn to the drama. Lisa fed off it, her voice climbing to a near shriek. "I'm documenting this violation, and you'll get a formal warning from the HOA board. Fines start at due law 100, and they increase with every incident." I clenched my jaw, trying to stay calm. "Lisa, there's no violation. Buddy's leashed, always has been, always will be. The rules don't say anything about leash length, just that dogs need to be under control. Which Buddy is." I gestured to him, sitting calmly at my feet, oblivious to the chaos. But Lisa wasn't listening. She scoffed, loud and theatrical, and leaned in closer. "You people always think you're so clever," she sneered. "I know what I'm seeing. You probably slapped that leash on when you saw me coming. I've been watching you for saw week saw. This is passive noncompliance, and it's still a violation." I opened my mouth to fire back, but before I could, someone else stepped in. Emily Carter, an actual elected HOA board member, was walking toward us, her brow furrowed in confusion. She'd been sitting on a bench across the park and must have heard Lisa's tirade. Lisa, too wrapped up in her power trip to notice Emily, didn't even pause. "I'm calling for immediate action," she declared, while VYing her phone like a battle flag. "We need to make an example of rule breakers to protect our community's standards." Emily cleared her throat. "Excuse me," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Is there a problem here?" Lisa spun around, clearly annoyed at the interruption. Yes, there is. This man's violating the leash rules, and I'm documenting it for the board. She hadn't realized she was talking to a board member. Emily glanced at Buddy, then at the glaringly obvious red leash wrapped around my wrist, then back at Lisa. Have you actually saw at the dog? She asked, her tone dry. There's a leash right there. A very sable red one. The air shifted. Lisa's mouth opened, then closed, like she was a fish gasping for water. The crowd, now a dozen strong, started murmuring. A few people pulled out their phones, filming the meltdown. Someone snorted, trying to stifle a laugh. Lisa's face went from red to ghostly pale as the truth hit her. She'd been so sure she'd caught me, but she'd missed the leash staring her in the face. Emily wasn't done. Lisa, you're familiar with Section 12 of the guidelines, right? The one about resident interactions? It prohibits harassment and false accusations. Those violations carry penalties, including removal from community roles. The crowd went dead silent. Lisa's eyes widened, and you could practically see her world crumbling. The same woman who'd terrorized neighbors with threats of fines was now the one in the hot seat. I'm just trying to keep the neighborhood safe, Lisa mumbled, her voice barely audible. There've been complaints. Emily didn't budge. The only complaint I've heard today is about someone harassing a resident who's clearly following the rules. As a board member, I'm asking you to stop this. Now, Lisa took a shaky step back, then turned to leave. In her hurry, she misjudged the path's edge and stumbled, arms flailing. She didn't fall, but the moment was pure gold, captured by every phone in the crowd. Without another word, she speed-walked away, practically sprinting from the scene of her own humiliation. Emily turned to me, her face softening. On behalf of the HOA board, I'm sorry about that. You and Buddy are obviously in compliance. I nodded, still processing the absurdity of it all. The crowd dispersed, buzzing with excitement, already sharing videos of Lisa's epic takedown. By Wednesday, an email from the HOA hit every resident's inbox. It was a friendly reminder about respectful interactions, paired with a clarified pet policy complete with a photo of a bright red leash that looked suspiciously like Buddy's. The email also dropped a bombshell. Due to recent events and multiple complaints, Lisa had been stripped of her role as community liaison, effective immediately. Word around the neighborhood was she'd been slapped with a due law $300 fine for harassment and stuck with overdue law $2,000 in legal fees from an emergency HOA meeting to address her behavior. When she got the news, rumor has it she turned as red as Buddy's leash, stormed out of the HOA office, and screamed about suing everyone. But we all knew she had nothing to stand on, just like she had no case against Buddy and me that Sunday. That morning started as a simple walk, but it turned into the neighborhood drama of the year. Lisa's reign of terror ended with her own rules turned against her. And Buddy? He just kept wagging his tail, blissfully unaware he'd starred in the takedown of the decade. Now, when we walk through Willow Creek Park, folks smile and wave, and I can't help but feel a little lighter knowing Lisa's not lurking around the corner. So what do you think? Was Lisa just trying to keep the neighborhood safe? Or was she drunk on power? Should the HOA have fined her more or let her off with a warning? And what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you're Team Buddy, and subscribe for more wild neighborhood stories.